Broaddus brought up receiver. A lot of Tolos are tweeting about receiver. You think this is a possibility, and do you think it's a need?
I think it's absolutely a need, and I think that they could go out there and improve their receiving core today with a trade, with getting involved in the Odell Beckham, free agency frenzy, everything else. I see that as, if you really believe you have a championship defense, you need to go out there and improve your receiving core.
What's missing? What's missing skill-wise from it?
I think they're lacking really, exceptional route runners for one. But I know Brian mentioned it earlier today. We've talked about it on the Love of the Star podcast. They don't have guys that attack the football. They have guys that are a little timid when they get into traffic, and don't really have that's my ball mentality. As Brian mentioned, Des Bryant was that guy. I think they lost a little bit. The two guys that I think most embodied it in recent years for them were Cedric Wilson and Amari Cooper, and they're both gone. And so they don't have guys that go after the football and fight for the ball. And in a scheme that doesn't do a lot to, manufacture space to scheme them open, you need guys who are going to attack the football and who are going to make tough catches. I think the guy who's probably most adept at doing it right now on this team is probably Noah Brown. But Noah has his own issues at times. And so what they need is somebody who either can generate a lot of separation and give you some easy throwing windows, or somebody who can attack the football and it doesn't matter if somebody's draped on them. And I think they absolutely could go find that right now, whether it be in the trade market or in the free agent market. And they haven't seemed totally willing to want to do that yet. And I think that's a mistake. You've talked about this week that you think that the best way, as much as people think you're a Dak ass, Sean, that they think you believe that the way for them to win is to throw the ball more, is to lean more on the passing game. And,
to win big, to win big.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, not just win big, but like the game they lost this, most recently, Philadelphia, they ran the ball fine that day. And the defense was fine that day. They couldn't throw the ball. You lost that because of your passing game. And so when you go up against some of these top-tier teams, you need to throw the ball. We look at, Buffalo, one of the better teams in the NFL. They've got Josh Allen. You look at Kansas City. They've got Patrick Mahomes. They've got elite passing games that you're going to need to keep up with. And so, to me, if you really want to contend for a Super Bowl, if you want to make a difference, go out there and get a receiver. I don't know. You hear the comments from Jerry Jones. You hear the comments coming out of that locker room and from this coaching staff, and it feels a little bit like they're content with having an average to below average passing game.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we've got a great defense, and we can just,
We have three indictments. We have three offensive indictments right now. We have one on the quarterback. We have one on these two receivers. If people agree, if you all believe that they should upgrade a receiver, you got a first-round pick who replaced Amari as a 1. You have Gallup, who you just gave a new deal to, and you want to run the football. That is. Tell me how I'm wrong that that's not three offensive indictments based on this discussion.
How about your third-round pick?
Yeah,
your third-round pick, who was supposed to compete in this receiver group, hasn't been able to remain active. They've had a lot of issues with this passing game, and so I think that they seem perfectly content to just run the ball and play defense, which is funny because even though they've been okay running the ball and they've been better than they were last year, they're not even very efficient at it. Like, if you look at the numbers, they're about middle of the pack in terms of their efficiency running the ball. And I don't understand the thought process of we're okay just shooting for 20 points a game.
Yeah.
I don't think that you can have long-term success, sustained success that way. You can beat some bad teams. You can even win a couple close games against good teams, but you're going to lose in the playoffs if that's your philosophy.
Joined here by Bobby Belt, my partner here on Love of the Star podcast. That's up already, right, Bobby? They got that thing up going this morning. So you check it out after the show today if you would. All right, who's going to go recruit Odell Beckham? Because that's what it's going to come down to. You got to kiss his ass if you want him to come play for you guys. That's what you got to do. We talk about this on the podcast, Bobby, that with Odell, you have to show love for him. You have to make him feel like
massage
that.
Him.
Yeah, you have to be that guy, that organization that because Von Miller's going to recruit him at Buffalo. Up in Buffalo.
Rams.
Yeah, the Rams. Those guys. He already knows the Rams. They know the.
They have a locker for him.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Who on the Cowboys? Does Jerry Jones recruit him? Dak Prescott recruit him? Ezekiel? Who's recruiting this guy to come play for you? Because that's what it's going to really come down to.
Yeah, you lost your biggest recruiting asset this offseason when they let Adam Henry go, because Odell Beckham thought really highly of Adam Henry, the old receivers coach. That was a guy that he worked with in New York, Cleveland, and at LSU.
Maybe why he won't come here.
That may be. That may be the issue at hand. But I think that he would have interest in this team. I think that he'd have interest in being a Cowboy if the Cowboys wanted to get involved. And so in terms of if you were going to put the full recruiting pitch on, I think you said the first two names correctly. I think it'd be Jerry, and I think it would, in all likelihood, be Dak Prescott. Micah could recruit. Zeke could recruit. But, at the end of the day, the guy that really needs to sell him in all likelihood is Dak Prescott. That's the guy that's going to be throwing him the football. And while you guys don't see it publicly, I promise you behind the scenes, Dak has been an active recruiter over the years. He's tried. There's just times where the Cowboys don't want to get involved in spending money or doing things like that. Dak is out front trying to convince guys to come play here for the discounts that the Cowboys want to pay guys. And so it's just been a matter of the money's been too far off for that recruiting to matter much. But look, they've got enough cap space to make this work. They can be competitive in this realm. They've got the branding. They've got the team around them, the potential for success here that I think would resonate with him. It's just a matter of them choosing to get involved, I think. I don't see that they want to yet.
Let me get you a tweet and a couple of texts from the Tolos. Joshua, they're getting a guy at the trade deadline in James Washington. Truckwreck.com text line. What about some more reasonable names, since we know they're not going to do anything flashy, like Jerry Jeudy or Brandon Cooks?
I like Brandon Cooks. You start hearing some chatter that maybe Baltimore would be in on Cooks if a deal were to be made.
What about his size? Is that a problem for the team that likes length at wide receivers and all that?
I don't think so.
They can't even get Turpin on the field.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Turpin's always been a secondary offensive player to them.
Okay,
so
I'm saying about size.
Yeah, but Robert Prince, the receivers coach, has shown he's okay with smaller receivers as long as they're really top-tier route runners. That's why he liked Danny Amendola. Even though he likes bigger guys, he was able to work with Amendola in Detroit and Houston because Amendola was a really good route runner. And so Cooks is somebody that I think he could work with. It's just a matter of I don't think Dallas is ultimately the landing spot on that front. I don't think as good as I think James Washington can be at times, and as much as I think he can help this, I think the Cowboys told you what they thought about James Washington when you saw the money they paid him, and that when he went down, we literally have no reason to replace what he was going to do for us. We feel like we can roll with Dennis Houston and guys like that, and so I think they're more than happy. They're more than happy to have him back. They're more than happy to work him into the fold. I just don't think that they believe James Washington is any sort of a difference maker. I think that they just believe he's part of a rotation and just a rotational piece. But look, go out there. Even if you have to overpay, I'm okay overpaying to make a move to go get a receiver. Everybody thought Amari Cooper for a first was an overpay. Go find something that may be a slight overpay in order to make this team a true contender in what is a really, really watered down and weak NFL this year. There are not a lot of really top-tier true contenders, and you can become one of them if your passing game starts to level up a little bit.
Well, you better be ready-made if you're going to come here and play receiver, because they're not going to do anything to create any separation for you or anything like that. You better be able to be a great route runner and go snatch the ball and all that stuff, because they're not. They're not. I mean, let's be honest. Bobby, do you feel like that you're really getting all the development out of CeeDee Lamb and Gallup? And look what in Tolbert. We talk about Tolbert when he came out of South Alabama. Yeah, it's a small school, but that kid looked pretty much ready-made to play. But who knew that he was going to short circuit though mentally? When they threw all that stuff at him.
Yeah, that wasn't anything that I think we could anticipate. And look, that's one of the things that is frustrating about his ready-made aspects. I don't think it's an indictment of what he can be in the future. I'm not saying he can't still bounce back, but it's definitely been a struggle to be a plug-and-play player. But, yeah, you're right. Like, you need to be a good route runner and somebody who's able to attack the football and catch in traffic because, like you say, the scheme isn't necessarily going to present that to you. But also, you're talking about a midseason acquisition. You need as small a learning curve as possible. And so you're probably looking at some basic route concepts when you first get here anyway and easy aspects to work you into the offense. And so you need to be able to run good routes and to attack the football. I mean, honestly, is anybody going to want to go trade for somebody that when they get here we say, well, they traded for this receiver, but they don't attack the football and they're bad at route running?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Dallas is giving up capital for that right now. And so, go give up the capital to entice the Panthers to give up DJ Moore. Go make phone calls on other guys, even if it's somebody like, Denzel Mims with the Jets or somebody else. Just make something happen. Like, I know nobody loves Kenny Golladay, but like Kenny Golladay at least attacks the football. And so, I don't know, go make a call about Golladay or whoever else. It's just do something. Don't just sit back on your hands. I want you to do what you did with the defensive tackle spot yesterday. You said, we got to do something here. Let's figure out what works. Because this is too many times now during this season and this off season where they seemed content to just sit back and say, well, let's see how the receiver room plays out. They were content during the summer to say, let's see how the receiver room plays out. James Washington gets hurt. They said, let's see how Dennis Houston plays out. They get into the regular season. Guys are struggling. They go, let's see how things play out once Dak returns. You're running out of time to let things play out. You got less than a week to make it.
Let me defend them. Let me just play devil's advocate for a second.
Homer.
You play.
Really? I thought I was working with somebody that really was kind of a fiery guy.
Yeah, no.
Well, I'm gonna fight with you two. So just give me a second.
Cat boy and pushover boy is what we got here.
Push pop. I'm gonna fight back against you two haters. Devil's advocate. You have played.
Devil is right.
You've played 2 games with your. You played a game and a half with your quarterback.
Yeah.
Don't freak out so much offensively. We all knew it was a get rust off game against the Lions. Let's see what happens against Chicago, and let's let them play 2 or 3 games between Lamb, Gallup, and Dak together. Devil's advocate.
Was it? Let me ask you this real quick though. Are you saying that? Did you see what happened to the receivers against Philadelphia?
Without your quarterback.
Okay, I'm just
your
saying,
backup quarterback against awesome corners.
There's too many. I mean,
and you were getting run 20-0. Yeah. Am I going to use that game as an indictment of all my investments?
I'm just saying though. I'm with you about the quarterback stuff. I am totally with you on that, and because the quarterback had no practice last week. The way Mike McCarthy practices.
Yeah.
The way
I'm not going to judge your crawfish boil if you have to cook it in my bathtub. You got to have your equipment. You got to have your spices. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand that, but to me, this is where I worry about the Cowboys is on defense. If you bring that coaching staff players, you know that you're going to get the absolute best out of them. The thing I worry about with the receivers might not be.
But explain to me what this means. We got a Tolo tweeting us. What do they mean by the route running? Okay, what is missing in terms of
you got to be able to separate
route running?
Well, okay.
Doesn't every team? I'm going to ask a dumb football question. I would ask Jesse Holly. Doesn't every team run outs and slants and out and
route trees and stuff
curls?
like that? But there's combinations. Look how Kansas City works with the wide receivers and the tight ends. Look how like the Buffalo Bills, the creativity that they have. The wheel routes, pick routes, things like you don't see the one thing that you and I, when we were working on the draft that night when CeeDee Lamb, the one thing that we were excited about him was like run after catch. His ability to separate, where is that? Where is that with it's like he gets a ball thrown down the middle of the field in the game the other day that should have been intercepted on a route where the quarterback didn't see the safety was playing down and retreated. See, that's the thing about it is I know I keep saying this, but I know that if Curse, it was not a guy that was on anybody's radar about playing. And then also Dan Quinn gets the guy, and it's like they play him as a linebacker. He misses 3 tackles for the whole year. Take advantage of what you got in CeeDee Lamb. Michael Gallup, the answer that Kellen Moore gives you is, I need to do a better job of getting him the ball. Come on, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, I know you're only running 58 plays a game. Maybe that's something to it. But find a way to create opportunities for your guys. I don't care if you run pick routes, rub routes, crossing routes, combination routes with the tight ends. Why do I watch everybody else? And I know scoring's down, but we were in an era where everybody threw the football, and we were marveling at creativity around the league, except for here. And now it's like, well, let's turn into a 2 yards and cloud of dust offense and play defense and punt the ball.
Bobby, aren't we judging this too harshly without Dak playing enough games? Then we'll let you go.
No, because you don't have time to make the determination. Like when you say let's give it 2 to 3 games, you don't have 2 to 3 games. You have 6 days before the trade deadline, and 2 to 3 weeks from now, you've given 2 to 3 more weeks of teammates and guys around the league to quietly court Odell Beckham and put yourself at more of a disadvantage. And so I don't think you have the time for this. And while, yeah, it's great, we'd love to see what kind of chemistry Dak and the receivers have now that he's back. There are certain things you can judge over the first 7 weeks, even without Dak. Can your guys get separation right now? No. Are they attacking the football right now regardless of who the quarterback is? No. And so to me, it's pretty obvious we have the answers regardless of who's playing quarterback, that these receivers have not been good enough. And if you want to win a Super Bowl this year, I'll tell you this, if they don't make an improvement at the receiving core, if these receivers don't just all of a sudden it clicks for Jalen Tolbert, Michael Gallup all of a sudden refines who he is, and CeeDee Lamb levels up to be that number 1 receiver, if you don't get that, you're not going to contend for a Super Bowl, no matter how good your defense is.